We're working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Nia Mangawang, delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. On today's headlines, Pag-asa says two weather systems, a ridge of high pressure area and the easterlies are affecting the Philippines. Indonesia's search and rescue team has located a sunken ferry in Sumatra's Lake Toba. Philippine Navy ships took part in a formation exercise with other Rim of the Pacific or RIMPAC-bound vessels as it was passing through Johnson Atoll while headed to Hawaii. And in the ASEAN region, sustainable physical infrastructure from cities to villages will connect people and countries for generations to come. State Weather Bureau Pag-asa says two weather systems, a ridge of high pressure area or HPA and the easterlies are affecting the Philippines. In its forecast issued at 4 a.m. Monday, the State Weather Bureau said the ridge of high pressure area affecting northern Luzon will bring good weather condition in most parts of the country, while the easterlies is affecting the country's eastern section. The provinces of Aurora and Quezon will have cloudy skies with light to moderate rains and isolated thunderstorms due to the easterlies. Metro Manila and the rest of the country will be partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers due to localized thunderstorms. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte passed a new mental health bill securing rights and welfare for people with mental health issues. The principal sponsor of the bill, Senator Risa Hontiveros, announced the signing on June 21st and said the bill will pave the way toward integrating mental health care into the country's public health care system. Mental health advocates on Friday said that the final version of the mental health bill that was passed and signed into law has the best features and representing the different concerns of the sectors that pushed for the past 17 years. Dr. Ed Tolentino, former president of the Philippine Psychiatric Association, said the new versions actually incorporated different inputs from various concerned agencies and groups, including patients and their families. He added that another welcome feature of the law was the inclusion of provision on drug abuse problem in recognition that it is a mental health issue. Under the mental health law, those who have drug addiction problem as defined under Republic Act 9165 or Dangerous Drugs Act will be assessed and be given the necessary services provided by the law. The UN Refugee Agency's annual report on global forced displacement trends released on Wednesday, which was World Refugee Day, focused on the additional 650,000 marginalized and stateless Muslim Rohingya expelled from Myanmar into Bangladesh from mid-2017, bringing the year-end total to almost 950,000 housed in the world's largest refugee camp in rural Cox's Bazar. The report also said that the refugees face increased protection risks during the May to September monsoon season from natural disaster and disease. The Bangladeshi government has floated a proposal to relocate part of the population to Prasan Char Island of the Bay of Bengal coast. However, this is also a vulnerable climate zone. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR, points out that more than half of the latest Rohingya refugee wave, which followed previous ones in 2016 and in the 1990s and 1970s, are children under the age of 17. The women and girls, meanwhile, often experience sexual violence. Myanmar ranks as the number 4 home country for refugees globally, with only Afghanistan at number 2, with double the exodus at 2.5 million, exceeding it in Asia. Almost 1.5 million Afghans have fled to neighboring Pakistan over decades of civil war, and Iran hosts just under 1 million. In Southeast Asia, advanced emerging markets Malaysia and Thailand have also received large Rohingya contingents fleeing by boat, and a new study co-authored by the U.S.-based Center for Global Development and 10th Partnership for Refugees finds them mostly in urban areas with ready employment and supply chain access to local and multinational business. In 2017, the world's displaced total reached another high of 68.5 million. Indonesian cleric Aman Abdurrahman was sentenced to death Friday for masterminding a 2016 Islamic State terror attack that saw a suicide bomber blow himself up at a Starbucks cafe. Heavily armed police guarded the hearing at a Jakarta court, which had earlier found Abdurrahman guilty of ordering the attack that killed 4 in the capital. It was the first attack claimed by the international terror network in Southeast Asia.
Jatuhkan pidana kepada terdakwa Muhammad Rahman alias Aman Abdurrahman alias Abu Sulaiman bin Adis Burma dengan pidana.
His lawyer Asluddin Hatjani described the ruling as unfair, citing a lack of evidence connecting Abdurrahman to the deadly attack. Executions are carried out by firing squad in the world's biggest Muslim-majority country, which has long struggled with Islamist militancy. In 2002, bombings at the resort island of Bali killed over 200, mostly foreign tourists, in Indonesia's worst ever terror attack. The assault in the capital 2 years ago saw security forces battle gun-toting militants near the cafe, where a suicide bomber detonated his explosives. Prosecutors demanded that Abdurrahman be handed a death sentence for his role in that attack last month. Considered the de facto head of IS supporters in Indonesia, Abdurrahman, believed to be 46, is also the spiritual leader of local extremist network Jamaah Ansharut Daulah. Authorities have said Jad was involved in the 2016 Jakarta attack and a recent wave of suicide bombings in Indonesia's second biggest city, Surabaya. Indonesia's search and rescue team has located a sunken ferry in Sumatra's Lake Toba. It has been nearly a week since the vessel sank in bad weather with almost 200 people on board. 192 people were confirmed killed. Nanang Hengki Supato, an executive director at PT Mahakarya Geosurvey, firm involved in the search, said the hydrographic survey identified the ferry 450 meters deep in the water, not far from where it sank on Monday. Mr. Suharto added that further investigation by deploying underwater drones would be required to confirm the findings. More than 100 people are missing, most believed to be trapped inside a boat as it slipped beneath the waves. An official with search and rescue agency Basarnas said raising the ship would be required to recover the bodies. On Thursday, Indonesian police questioned the ship's captain, warning a criminal investigation could be launched into the cause of the disaster. On Wednesday, after the full scale of the tragedy emerged, Transport Minister Budi Karya Sumadi said the boat had a passenger capacity of 43, making it 5 times over capacity when it sank, and was equipped with only 45 life jackets. back. Philippine Navy ships, strategic sealift vessel BRP Davao del Sur and frigate BRP Andres Bonifacio took part in a formation exercise with other Rim of the Pacific or RIMPAC-bound vessels as it was passing through Johnson Atoll while headed to Hawaii. Commodore Jonathan Zata, PN spokesperson, said the formation exercise took place Sunday morning. Other participants in the exercise were Japan's helicopter destroyer JS Ise, India's Shivali-class stealth frigate, the INS Sahyadri, the American Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS William P. Lawrence, and Singapore's formidable class stealth frigate RSS Tenacious. He added that the ships took part in a series of formation exercises which included a diamond-oppressed and line-oppressed formations and conducted a communication exercise to ensure the success of the former drills. Zata said that the naval vessels are expected to arrive in Hawaii by June 26. This year's RIMPAC is supposed to start June 27 and end on August 2. Aside from the two ships, the PN is also deploying an Augusta Westland AW-109 naval helicopter and 700 sailors and Marines. The Philippine Navy contingent is commanded by Captain Ernesto Baldovino, while mission head is Commodore Toribio Adasi. The Philippine Stock Exchange, or PSE, has secured the approval of the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, to introduce short selling in the stock market. Short selling is in place in several exchanges and is utilized by investors as a hedging mechanism. Short selling is a strategy that seeks to capitalize on an anticipated decline in the price of a security. Short seller is one who tries to sell high and buy low. We are grateful to the SEC for approving the guidelines for short selling. We are optimistic that this facility will lend support to our securities borrowing and lending program and help improve liquidity in our market, said PSE President and Chief Executive Officer Ramon Monson. The approved implementing guidelines for short selling transactions include provisions on eligible securities, procedures for short selling transactions, and the execution of short selling orders, among others. In the case of eligible securities, members of the PSE Index or PSEI and exchange-traded funds are the only securities considered as eligible for short selling transactions. For any eligible security, only 10% of its outstanding shares can be shorted. The limit acts as a safeguard for the orderly conduct of short selling activities while still providing ample room for price discovery. Meanwhile, in executing short selling orders, trading participants will have to ensure that the client has entered into the necessary securities borrowing arrangements prior to entering a short selling order. Such borrowing arrangements must adhere to existing SEC, Bureau of Internal Revenue, and PSE regulations governing securities borrowing and lending. Monson explained that since this is the first time we are introducing short selling, our guidelines were crafted with the goal of ensuring that short selling transactions are transparent and effectively monitored. Even with a limited number of eligible securities and a cap on a short interest to begin with, we believe that the ability to take short positions will further spur trading activity and attract more investors to our market. Once we launch short selling, investors will be able to employ this tool to help them hedge their portfolio risk. South China's Guangxi-Zhuang Autonomous Region is now connected by air with all 10 members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, consolidating its role as the country's gateway to the ASEAN, according to the Guangxi Airport Group. The Philippines is the last country to be connected with Guangxi by air. The first flight of a new air route linking the regional capital, Nanning, with Manila in the Philippines took off Thursday night. In the first 5 months of this year, there were 4,518 flights between Guangxi and ASEAN countries, with a total 552,000 passengers. Guangxi saw an air passenger turnover of 1.09 million last year, up by 25% year-on-year. The ASEAN groups Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Cambodia's strongman leader Hun Sen took a brief break from electioneering on Saturday to watch orangutans roller skate, kickbox, and dance provocatively as he opened the first major zoo in the capital. The premier, one of the world's longest-serving leaders, is seeking to prolong his 33-year grip on power in a national vote set for July 29 and has used the courts to cripple his opponents. But he has also tried to cultivate a lighter side. Today, we are all happy to inaugurate the animal zoo, the Phnom Penh Safari, Hun Sen said in a speech to thousands at the park before a ribbon-cutting ceremony, adding that the site of the sprawling complex was a former ammunition depot for remnants of the brutal Khmer Rouge regime. The $9 million safari will house 89 types of animals, including bears, ostriches, kangaroos, giraffes, and tigers and deer. The zoo is run by a company owned by Tycoon Lai Yong Phat, a senator from the ruling Cambodian People's Party. After the official unveiling, Hun Sen took a tour of the grounds and sat down to watch the orangutan show, a common form of entertainment at Southeast Asian zoos that animal rights activists have long been critical of. The 65-year-old strongman smiled as the apes performed a variety of slapstick routines, including gyrating to music.
With gorgeous white sandy beaches that stay cool to touch even on the hottest summer days, blue-green ocean waves, and a warm ocean breeze, there's no wonder why Dr. Beach has named Siesta Key, Florida, the #1 beach in the United States. Don't forget to watch episodes of Digital Next every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I'm Melissa Protest, coming to you from Siesta Key, Florida, and I am one with 25.
Welcome back. The ASEAN region is growing, and within the next decade, 700 million people are expected to call the region home. A master plan is underway to build sustainable physical infrastructure from cities to villages to connect people and countries for generations to come. Watch this.
ASEAN is growing. Within the next decade, 700 million people are expected to call this region home. Managing that growth will be vital. The Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025 provides the framework to deliver growth that will benefit the people of ASEAN. It sets out a vision to connect the region, building the physical ties that bind us, bringing our institutions closer together, and connecting the people of ASEAN with each other. Any successful community building efforts must rest upon sustainable foundations. Sustainable infrastructure investment will form the basis for a better tomorrow to meet the needs of a fast-growing ASEAN. Our infrastructure investments will have to increase significantly.
What kind of infrastructure that we need to connect? Road, rail, air, and sea. Once you are able to connect not only the city, between the city and within the village, then the farmers, the people who live in the rural area can get benefit of selling their products, improve their quality of life.
ASEAN will increase public and private infrastructure investment across the 10 member states. We will evaluate and support projects which offer the greatest benefit to ASEAN by encouraging investment, supporting construction, and mobilizing vital resources to ensure success. The goal is a sustainable, connected ASEAN that will offer a better quality of life for all.
ฉะนั้นจึงว่าได้ว่าการก่อสร้างพื้นฐานของรางแม้นมีความจำเป็นต่อกับการพัฒนาเศรษฐกิจสังคมของสปป.ลาวในเงื่อนไขที่สปป.ลาวบ่มีชายแดนติดกับทะเลแต่พวกเราถือสำคัญการพัฒนาพื้นฐานของราง ที่ประกอบส่วนเขาในเรื่องงานต่างๆในคะแนนการของท่าแห่ของสปป.ลาวเพื่อเสริมโยงกับประเทศอาเซียนในประเทศพวกเรา
The master plan will help to share best practices on infrastructure productivity in ASEAN and to identify opportunities to improve infrastructure. It will clearly lay out the steps to achieve more cost-effective, productive infrastructure development in the region. Bridging together the people of ASEAN is a vital component towards creating an environment for increased productivity in transport, travel and trade in sub-regional arrangements to advance the remote regions within ASEAN.
In the Tanai region, in the way it's located in the Tanai region, there is a lot of natural resources, for example, fishing industry, railway industry and mining industry. By connecting the connectivity, we can free movement between ASEAN countries and Myanmar commodities, especially. Now Asia starting, so we can free flow of goods and services between Myanmar and ASEAN countries.
Building an ASEAN for the future requires delivering modern infrastructure to meet tomorrow's challenges. By 2030, 90 million more people will call our cities home. To manage this, the Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025 will help to deploy smart and effective urbanization models across the region. That means learning from each other while understanding the challenges unique to each urban environment, enhance sharing and adoption of experiences in developing sustainable practices, delivering smart transport and building better places to live.
ASEAN is rapidly urbanizing with megacities like Bangkok, Manila and Jakarta. The challenge is how to have livable and sustainable high-density cities. Livability with density comes from making a city green or blue, even as it urbanizes with vertical greenery, rooftop gardens, park connectors, and a green heart in the city, like our gardens by the bay. Above all, cities can learn from each other.
Building a smarter future means delivering infrastructure in a sustainable way for future generations. The Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025, delivering sustainable infrastructure for today and tomorrow.
And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Nea Mangawang, always one with 25.